Hey, is a historically massive food disaster about to happen? A broken food system is a stark reality for millions of Americans living in a society where unpredictability is a constant threat. What causes this catastrophe, and what steps can be taken to lessen its catastrophic consequences? Follow along as we reveal the sobering facts and possible remedies to deal with this urgent matter before it's too late. Let's get started. The chief of the UN Food Program has issued a serious alert, stating that the entire world is facing a severe food crisis. Up to 345 million people are at risk of going without enough food, which worries him. This is a huge figure that is unheard of in the past. Even more concerning is the fact that around 70 million people are becoming more vulnerable to starvation as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. Consider a population of 345 million. That's more than the people who live in the United States combined. These folks lack adequate food to consume since they're dispersed throughout 82 different countries. This is a severe issue since starvation can bring significant illness or even death in certain cases. The UN Security Council was briefed about the problem by David Beasley, the head of the UN World Food Program. According to him, the number of individuals who don't have enough food at the moment is more than twice as high as it was prior to the COVID-19 epidemic beginning in 2020. This indicates that things have gotten considerably worse. Beasley clarified that his charity serves those in need of food in numerous nations throughout the world, but it's incredibly difficult for them to keep up with the sheer number of individuals who are hungry these days. Things are getting much worse because of the conflict in Ukraine. It's difficult for individuals to grow food or obtain it from other sources during a war. Aid workers who attempt to assist individuals in need run the risk of injury as well. There are several causes. Extreme weather brought on by climate change can destroy crops and make it more difficult to cultivate food. Food supplies are disrupted and people find it more difficult to get the necessities as a result of wars and conflicts like the one in Ukraine. Also, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to financial difficulties which have made it more difficult for some people to afford food. So why is this happening? This is a really dangerous circumstance. While the UN and other organizations are making a lot of effort to assist, international support is still needed. To ensure that fewer people have to go hungry, everyone must work together to discover solutions. The fact that 50 million of those individuals, spread over 45 nations, are knocking on the door of famine due to the extremely severe malnutrition, according to him, is deeply concerning. What was a wave of hunger is now a tsunami of hunger, he declared, citing the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the escalating conflict, the pandemic's economic aftereffects, climate change, and rising gasoline prices. Beasley claimed that rising food, gasoline, and fertilizer prices have brought 70 million people closer to hunger since Russia invaded its neighbor on February 24. There is a real and dangerous risk of multiple famine this year, he added, despite an agreement in July that permits food from 3 Black Sea ports that Russia has blockaded to be transparent to Ukraine in ongoing efforts to get Russian fertilizer back into international markets. And if we don't act, the current crisis in food prices could turn into a crisis in food availability in 2023. What do you think about this crucial situation? The Security Council's main concern were food shortages brought on by conflict and the possibility of starvation in Yemen, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and northern Nigeria. However, Beasley and Martin Griffiths, the UN humanitarian head, also issued warnings over the food crisis in Somalia, a country they both recently visited. Griffiths also prioritized Afghanistan. Somalia will experience famine. Make sure that it won't be the only location as well, Griffiths stated. He quoted reports from recent surveys that stated that hundreds of thousands of people are facing catastrophic levels of hunger. That is, they are at the highest point of famine. In April 2020, Beasley informed the council that we were then facing famine, starvation of biblical proportions. On the other hand, have you ever thought about the effects of conflicts and violence in this situation? Do you think conflicts will help? This scenario outlined by Griffiths and Beasley highlights the terrible conditions that millions of people experience globally as a result of conflict, violence, and the ensuing effects of food security. In addition to causing immediate harm to people through injury or death, conflict and violence also have far-reaching effects that make food poverty worse. Griffiths observed the violence and conflict affect food security both directly and indirectly. They directly cause casualties and fatalities among the general public. They essentially drive families to abandon their homes and their land they depend on for food and money. They also make it harder for people to afford basic food items and lead to economic downturns. The ongoing battle in Yemen, which has lasted for more than 7 years, is among the most glaring examples of this. Griffiths emphasized that a startling 19 million people in Yemen, 6 out of 10 people are severely food insecure as a result of the protracted conflict. Of them, 160,000 or more are thought to be experiencing food insecurity to such an extent that it's considerably a tragedy. In addition, 538,000 horrifyingly unnourished children in Yemen face long-term effects on their development and health. Beasley highlighted how conflicts are linked to one another and affect food security worldwide, even in areas that are not immediately affected by the conflict. He said Yemen, a nation that depends mostly on food imports, is seeing an increase in inflation as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. Food costs are growing quickly as a result of the inflation, further taxing already needed communities. Yemen's resilience of food imports make it especially susceptible to interruptions in international supply chains, which exacerbates the effects of wars taking place in other parts of the world. Helping those impacted by food insecurity worldwide, particularly in Yemen, is a critical function of the World Food Program. However, there are substantial barriers because of the scope of the problem, the difficulties brought on by violence and escalating cost. Beasley emphasized that the World Food Program seeks to assist about 18 million people in Yemen. However, the organization is facing financial difficulties as a result of its cost rising by 30% to $2.6 billion this year. Amidst these financial strains, the World Food Program has had to make unpopular choices, such as cutting back on the quantity of food aid given to Yemen households. Beasley said the people in Yemen are only getting 2/3 of their previous food rations this month, a significant decrease that exacerbates the difficulties vulnerable populations confront. Yemen's position is a sobering reminder of how disastrous war is for food security and how urgently international action is required to address these disasters. In order to stop more suffering and death, the international community must prioritize humanitarian aid, back diplomatic efforts to end hostilities, and address the underlying causes of food insecurity as long as conflicts and new crises continue. Should we really consider this situation as unrepairable? Millions of Americans are preparing for the possibility of an imminent disaster as the world's food supply confronts previously unheard of difficulties. Concerns about food shortages and skyrocketing prices are growing rapidly as the global food supply collapse reaches an irreversible threshold. A number of factors, such as a catastrophic weather occurrence, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical conflicts, are making the complex global network that supports food production and distribution extremely vulnerable. Food market instability has escalated, prices have skyrocketed, and reserves are running low as a result of these issues. The possibility of food scarcity looms big for many Americans, especially those who are already struggling financially, and this creates a sense of urgency to get ready for uncertain times ahead. Anticipating future shortages, individuals and communities have resorted to measures such as hoarding necessities, growing home gardens, and investigating other food sources. Worries about the sustainability of the existing food system in the long run have also spurred a growing trend towards sustainable agricultural methods and local food projects. But despite initiatives to adjust and lessen the effects of food insecurity, there's still a major obstacle because of the scope of the complexity of the problem. The effects of the failing food supply will not stop if global action is not comprehensive and coordinated, which emphasizes the critical need for preventative actions to preserve food security and guarantee the welfare of people and communities everywhere. What do you think about this situation? And that's about it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like more AI updates, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon to not miss out on any video and to get notifications on time. Don't hesitate to give suggestions for our videos. We'll see you in the next one.